Nobody expected this.
Stephen Colbert, the king of late-night smugness, sitting comfortably in his polished chair, ready to roast another conservative like it was just another Tuesday. The cameras were rolling.
The audience was primed.
The writers backstage already sipping oat milk lattes, knowing exactly how the segment would go.
But then, something unexpected happened.
Karoline Leavitt walked in calm, confident, not a single ounce of fear in her step.
And by the time she left,
Stephen Colbert was speechless.
The audience? Frozen. And the internet? About to go nuclear.
It all started the same way these shows always do.
Bright lights. Expensive cameras. A studio audience trained like circus seals to clap at the right moments.
And right there in the center of it all, sat Stephen Colbert.
One leg crossed. That polished desk.
That smug little coffee mug in his hand like he's the king of late-night TV. And in walks Karoline Leavitt.
Not a celebrity. Not a Hollywood insider.
Just a conservative firebrand who didn't get the memo that you're supposed to stay quiet when you walk into places like this.
You could already feel the energy.
Colbert was ready. Ready to embarrass her. Ready to make TikTok clips. Ready for his writers backstage to text him good one as soon as she left.
But Karoline? She wasn't nervous. She wasn't folding. She sat down, smiled politely, and waited.
Stephen gave her that trademark smirk. The same smirk he gives every conservative guest, like he already knows he's smarter, cooler, funnier, and more loved by the people in the room. And then he hit her with it. So, Karoline, he said, swirling that mug like a villain in a cartoon, how does it feel representing opinions from?
I don't know. 1865, collision laughter erupts from the audience. Weak. Predictable. Scripted.
They all thought they knew exactly how this was going to go.
Conservative shows up. Colbert drops cheap insult. Audience claps like robots.
Another clip for the highlight reel.
But then, something different happened. Karoline just looked at him. Didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Didn't do that awkward politician laugh most people do on these shows.
She tilted her head slightly.
And then smiled. Not the fake kind. Not nervous. Controlled.
Outdated, she repeated softly, her voice cutting through the fake laughter like a knife.
And then she dropped the hammer. Stephen, you sit here pretending to be edgy.
While repeating the same tired Hollywood talking points I could hear on any network, any night of the week you fireboom. The laugh track stopped working. You could literally hear people exhale. Someone in the second row actually coughed, not a fake laugh, not a supportive cheer, just real-life awkwardness.
Stephen wasn't expecting that. That wasn't in the script.
He leaned forward slightly, clearly not sure if she was serious or just playing along.
And then she hit him again. I'm here representing the part of America. The part you and your producers gave up on years ago. Bro, that wasn't just a comeback. That was a declaration of war. And the crazy part? She wasn't yelling. She wasn't getting emotional.
She was doing it all with surgical precision. Every word carefully chosen like someone playing chess 3 moves ahead.
Colbert's smirk faltered, just for a second. That's when you knew.
This wasn't gonna be one of those late-night political beatdowns where the conservative guest gets memed to death online the next morning.
This was going to be different. Karoline wasn't here to play defense. She came to flip the table.
And in that one moment, she wasn't just representing herself. She was standing up for everyone the late-night machine laughs at daily.
And this? This was just the beginning. The thing about Stephen Colbert is, he's predictable. Smug insult? Check. Cheap laugh from the audience? Check. Follow it up with a lazy stereotype about conservatives eating gas station hot dogs or living in basements? Check. And right on cue, here he went.
Well, I didn't realize we booked a spokesperson for gas station hot dogs and conspiracy theories.
Laughter. Applause. Forced. Weak.
It was like watching someone try to start a party, but the speakers are blown out and the pizza's cold.
Karoline didn't even blink.
She just sat there, cool, like someone holding pocket aces at a poker table and watching the other guy brag about his pair of threes. Then she leaned in.
Voice steady. Calm. Deadly.
Conspiracies, she repeated, letting the word hang in the air just long enough for the audience to lean forward in their seats.
You mean like the conspiracy where parents should have a say in their kids' education? Boom. First hit. Nobody clapped. Nobody laughed.
Just stunned silence as Karoline stared straight at him like a sniper lining up the shot.
She wasn't done. Or maybe the one where working-class Americans are tired of getting crushed by inflation while your friends in Hollywood throw black tie parties and pretend they understand regular people? Boom. Second hit.
Now the audience was shifting uncomfortably. A couple of nervous laughs, but mostly nothing. Because here's the thing they weren't ready for: Karoline knew the game. She wasn't just there to be the conservative punching bag. She was here to turn the whole set into rubble. Stephen tried to recover, adjusting his sleeve, smiling wider like that could somehow cover the fact that his usual gotcha lines were bouncing off this woman like Nerf darts against armor.
But Karoline? She was just getting started.
You know what's funny, Stephen, she said, voice still even, still sharp.
For someone who loves mocking conspiracy theories, you sure keep quiet when actual corruption happens in Washington. Oof. Direct hit. Right to the gut. For the first time in the interview, Colbert didn't have a comeback ready.
He blinked fast, that trademark grin starting to twitch just a little bit. It was like watching someone realize mid-game that they don't actually know how chess works.
And the crowd? They could feel it too.
That carefully rehearsed us versus them energy they usually felt during these segments was breaking.
Because Karoline wasn't just defending herself.
She was offending the whole script of the show.
No yelling. No drama. Just precision strikes.
And that's when she delivered the final shot of this round: you don't punch up anymore, Stephen.
You protect the people in power, and mock the people who don't have Netflix deals. Checkmate. Even the laugh sign in the studio wasn't gonna save him now. Stephen Colbert. The same guy who had embarrassed senators, roasted governors, humiliated presidential candidates, just got worked over by someone they never saw coming. And worst of all? He knew it. He could feel it. But by then? It was already too late. Karoline had flipped the script, and now she was running the show. Stephen Colbert didn't know it yet. But he was walking straight into a trap. See, Karoline wasn't just here for a cute debate moment. She wasn't here to play the part they wrote for her in the late-night script. She was here to win. And the best part? Stephen was making it easy for her. After that brutal exchange about parents, inflation, and Netflix parties, Colbert tried to fall back on the oldest trick in the liberal playbook: act superior. Use buzzwords. Toss in phrases that get the Twitter mob clapping in the comments. So, he leaned forward like he was about to educate her, and dropped this line. Well, we like facts here, Karoline. Not feelings. Cue the weak applause. That line used to work on cable news guests. Used to. But Karoline? She grinned. Like a lion spotting a tired antelope limping across the grass. Great, she said, eyes locked on his like she was about to flip his whole career upside down. Let's talk facts. The audience leaned in. They knew something was about to go down. And then she dropped the nuke: fact, your ratings tanked the second Trump left office. Boom. A ripple of stunned energy moved through the studio. That was personal. Not politics. Not policy. She just came directly for the empire Stephen built with his bare hands. And it landed hard. Colbert's trademark smile? It flickered like a cheap light bulb about to burn out. Karoline wasn't done.
Fact, she continued, sharp like broken glass, you don't challenge the system.
You are the system. Another blow. No canned laughter this time. No applause. Just people looking around like, did she really just say that, here?
And then she went for the finisher. Fact, you've made millions mocking Americans who wake up before sunrise, drive trucks, pour concrete, build this country, while you sit here reading jokes written by 27-year-olds who couldn't change a tire if their lives depended on it.
Direct. Personal. Ruthless. Colbert blinked.
His smile froze like a statue under pressure. For years, Stephen Colbert thrived on making others uncomfortable.
He built his brand on humiliating people who didn't share his views.
He feasted on polite conservatives who came on his show thinking they could be friends afterward.
But tonight? He was the one squirming. And Karoline? She wasn't yelling. She wasn't emotional. She was surgical. Every sentence? A blade. Every word?
Sharpened before she stepped on that stage.
Even the camera operators knew it.
You could tell by how the shots were changing, desperately trying to find an angle where Stephen still looked in control.
Didn't work. Even the studio lights couldn't hide it, he was losing.
It was like watching a chess grandmaster realize halfway through the game that their opponent isn't just good, they're better.
And Stephen?
He tried to push out a smile again, you know, the one TV hosts use when they're losing but don't want anyone to see it.
But the eyes don't lie.
Behind that Colbert grin was panic.
And the worst part? The audience could see it. The producers could see it. The internet was about to see it. What started as just another late-night segment for cheap applause was now turning into history. Karoline Leavitt wasn't supposed to win here. Not on this stage. Not against this host.
Not in front of this crowd.
But guess what? Nobody told her that. And now,
Stephen Colbert was the one struggling to find the next punchline.
For once, he was the punchline. You know that moment in a boxing match where the champion realizes they're actually losing? That was exactly the vibe in the studio now. Stephen Colbert, the king of snark, the prince of political mockery, was sitting there, smiling like everything was fine, but his eyes?
His eyes were screaming. And here's the crazy part.
The audience could feel it too. They'd been trained to laugh at the right moments. But now? They were confused. Who were they supposed to root for?
Stephen, the late-night giant, was supposed to be untouchable. But here was Karoline, sitting calmly, tearing his entire persona to pieces like she'd done this every weekend at family dinners.
And then she hit him again. No mercy.
You know what I love about this whole setup, Stephen, she said, voice clear, steady, surgical. You sit behind this desk, sipping coffee, acting like you're standing up for the little guy, while mocking actual little guys every night. Colbert tried to interrupt, lifting his hand like he could somehow regain control of his own show.
Too late.
Karoline leaned forward, smiling like a lion that already heard the gazelle's bones crack.
Let's talk about real people, Stephen. Not Hollywood. Not politicians. Real Americans. The ones you pretend don't exist.
She started ticking them off on her fingers, the factory worker in Ohio who hasn't seen a raise since Biden took office. The waitress in Texas who's paying double for groceries while your producer writes another monologue about saving democracy. The kid in Pennsylvania who's watching his school fall apart while you sip lattes behind bulletproof glass in New York. Fire boom.
Boom. Boom.
Colbert was out here swinging with pool noodles while Karoline was lobbing grenades.
And that's when something weird started happening. The laughter stopped feeling natural. It wasn't coming from the gut anymore. It was coming from obligation.
Even the die-hard blue-check types in the crowd were sitting stiff now, afraid to make eye contact with each other.
And Stephen?
Bro looked like a magician halfway through a trick, realizing he left the rabbit in his other jacket.
This was not the plan.
By now, the cameras were desperately cutting back and forth, like maybe if they could just switch angles fast enough, they could edit this whole disaster into something manageable later.
But Karoline didn't care. She was done playing defense. She was here to break the whole illusion of late-night superiority.
"Stephen," she said, soft now, lowering her voice just enough to make everyone in that room lean forward, "you've spent years calling people like me outdated.
Dangerous. Even evil." The tension in the room? Thick.
But we're the ones raising families.
Working overtime. Showing up early, leaving late, doing the boring, thankless jobs that keep this country standing.
Her gaze locked on his, steady, ice cold.
"You laugh at us from behind that desk like you're better. But deep down?"
She paused, letting that silence crawl across the whole room like a storm rolling in. "You know we're the reason America's still standing."
Checkmate. It wasn't just a debate anymore.
It was a cultural earthquake right there on late-night TV, with the whole country about to watch the replay online by sunrise. Stephen adjusted his tie, desperate for a save, some kind of witty line to win the audience back.
Nothing came. And then, like clockwork, someone in the audience clapped. One person. One brave, slightly awkward clap. Then another. And another. Until suddenly, the room wasn't laughing, it was clapping. For her. For Karoline. It wasn't thunderous yet. Not wild cheers. But it was real. And it was growing. Colbert's face tightened like he'd just swallowed a lemon whole. For the first time. Maybe ever. Stephen Colbert wasn't the hero of his own show.
Karoline Leavitt had flipped the script.
And now, the audience was flipping with her.
By the time Stephen Colbert realized what was happening, it was already too late.
The vibe in the room? Completely flipped. It wasn't his studio anymore. It was hers.
Karoline Leavitt had walked onto that stage as a guest, but now she was running the whole show.
And the audience? They knew it. You could feel it in the way they shifted in their seats. The polite, automatic laughs were gone. Now, people were staring, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, like they just watched the school nerd punch the school bully straight in the jaw. And Colbert? Man was sweating under the lights now. Not Hollywood cute nervous. Real nervous.
He tried one last time to crack a joke, voice strained. "Well,
I guess I'll need a new writer after this." Silence. Even the pity laughs were gone. Because everyone knew what had just happened here.
And while Colbert was fumbling for his next punchline like a boxer reaching for the ropes, Karoline sat there like she'd been born on that stage.
No flinch. No apology. No smile for approval. Just calm, power.
And that's when she did it, the final blow, the one that wasn't just for Stephen, but for everyone watching at home. "Stephen," she said, tilting her head slightly, "people aren't laughing with you anymore.
They're laughing at you." Boom. It echoed through the studio like a dropped microphone on marble floors. The control room must have been melting down in panic mode. Cut to commercial. Cut to commercial.
But nobody moved fast enough. This wasn't just a bad segment anymore, it was a career moment, and everyone felt it.
And then, someone in the back of the audience stood up.
A young guy, maybe early 20s.
Clean cut. MAGA hat? No. Bernie bro? Nope. Just a normal dude in jeans and a hoodie. And he clapped.
Not the slow, sarcastic clap Colbert used to do in his old sketches.
This was real. Solid. Loud. Then a girl 2 rows over joined in. And another. And another. Until suddenly, what started as an awkward moment, became a movement.
Colbert sat there, frozen.
He wasn't the hero anymore.
Karoline Leavitt was standing in his living room, rearranging the furniture, and taking receipts on the way out.
And the best part? Karoline didn't need to scream. Didn't need to throw insults. She beat him with truth.
In a world drowning in fake outrage and viral tantrums, Karoline won with facts, confidence, and steel nerve.
And the clip? Bro, that thing didn't just break the internet, it shattered it. By the next morning, it was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Karoline Leavitt humiliates Stephen Colbert. Live audience turns on him. Colbert finally meets someone who fights back. The smackdown nobody saw coming. Even people who didn't like politics were sharing it like, bro, I don't even care about this stuff, but she cooked him. And Stephen? He tried to save face the next episode with some half-hearted joke about rough nights, but it didn't land. Because deep down, he knew. The era of late-night shows mocking regular Americans from behind expensive desks? Over. The new era? Bold. Fearless. Unapologetic. Led by people like Karoline. People who don't care about cocktail parties or Hollywood invites. And that studio audience? By the time the show ended that night, they weren't laughing at her anymore. They were wondering, why haven't we heard voices like this before? And that is how you win in enemy territory, not by shouting, but by standing your ground so firmly, the ground under them starts to shake. Karoline didn't just win a debate that night. She made history. And the internet? It never forgets. This wasn't just a debate. It was the night Stephen Colbert realized, late night doesn't run the culture anymore. We do. Subscribe for more stories they don't want you to hear. Because this is just the beginning.